if someone's not doing a great job in your company, they're likely in the wrong position or they're in the wrong company and they're trying to make it fit for whatever reasons. If you can help them to see what's in their best interest or even help them to see what they would rather be doing, then sometimes you can alleviate the tension that's been there because honestly, people just want to be seen, heard, loved, appreciated. Hi, I'm Vicki Baird, and I have created my successful business by helping other people become successful in their own lives. This podcast, Intuition, Your Success Compass, is the tool you've been looking for to find your due north. We all have a soul and we all have an internal knowing. And in this podcast, you will learn to combine what your soul knows, your human self's brilliant intelligence, and the connection to the desire to live a life that is fully successful in whatever that definition is for you. Sound good? Good. Now let's get to it. Hi, welcome to Intuition, Your Success Compass. I'm Vicki. Thank you for being here and for bringing your beautiful energy to the show where we discuss intuition, business, modeling, life skills, basically anything and everything under the umbrella of connecting your soul to your human self so that you can freaking rock this lifetime and have a good time doing it. Because that's why your soul chose your body. It wanted to be in joy. It wanted to experience all of this excitement that gets to happen, the newness of each day, and the joy that's possible that most of the time in the human condition, we turn down and we forget to be joyful about. And I am on a mission to bring that back through my coaching, through my intuitive abilities, through my wacky sense of humor, through my love of coffee, and through whatever happens during this session when I'm in a stream of consciousness with my little list right in front of me, because we don't want to wander off into the weeds, which I'm prone to do if I don't have a little bit of guidance. So this week, what I'm talking about is why a business would hire an intuitive advisor, such as myself, and how it's been for me in that process to act as that advisor, but also the co-creator, a collaborator, and sometimes a cheerleader in the most honest and truthful way, being upfront, being direct sometimes, and also being willing to not know it all, because that's one of the misconceptions of being an intuitive or hanging your shingle out as a psychic. There is a tendency for public to see this as, well, you should have known that was coming. I'm sure you've heard the jokes. I have heard them so many friggin' times that now when somebody says something, they basically get the look up. You're such an original. When someone says, well, you should have known I was calling. Aren't you psychic? Yes, we all are. And we all are intuitive. But you know what? I don't spend my whole day looking for what could possibly be happening. You know, sometimes there's food to be made. Sometimes there's tasks to be done. And sometimes I'm focusing on the human element of this life. Who the heck wants to be on 24/7? So the benefit of hiring someone who has developed their intuition, though, is you can cut straight through all of the ego stuff if the person has done their work and recognized that they are not the end all and be all. And that's one of the first things I say when I work with someone. Listen, I can receive the download. I can see on my movie screen what is in the best course of action for you, but you are still responsible for your own choices, because I don't need to be a guru. I don't need to be on any kind of pedestal. I need you to believe in yourself. And it's not the greatest business model, but I really believe that I should work myself out of a job. And I don't know if that's going to happen in this lifetime, which I'm grateful for, but it may happen within a contract, within a relationship. And my intention is always to help the person learn so much about how they're wired and their own intuitive abilities that they only need me on retainer for check-in. And maybe they say, Vic, I'm good for now. Can I check back in with you in 6 months? Of course. I have one client who calls it her tune-up. And she's like, I'm calling for my tune-up. And then we do a few more sessions and calibrate, kind of get that human computer and intuitive computer working again. And then she's off and running with the next level. She does have a business, the next level of her business. And other people have been on with me on a consistent basis for years. And even though I feel like they're ready to trust themselves, they don't quite do that yet. And it's nice knowing that you have someone there who's going to back you up. So it's been one of the most enjoyable parts of my business because I just love everything entrepreneurial. I love business. I love asking people, is that really what you want to do? Or do you think you have to have a business? Because everybody's talking about their side hustle becoming their business. Or in this culture now, you need to create your own business. Nobody is a corporate person anymore. Well, we cannot do blanket statements. That's not appropriate. Each of us has our own desire. And much like my partner has said, he said, I could never run my own business. He is very qualified to run a business. And yet that's not something that would ever be comfortable for him because it doesn't have the stabilization that he's used to in the field that he works in. And I think it's important for everyone listening to this. This may be a podcast about business, but it may also be the permission you need to not go into business, to appreciate the fact that we really do, as a universe, require all types of brilliance. And some of the most dedicated employee energy is the reason that any of our systems work. And it's the reason that businesses like Amazon have success. It's not all the decisions that are made at the top level and are the reason for the success. That's just a small portion of it. It's all the people who show up to work every day and move our products about and get our digital stuff online and negotiate the deals behind the scenes. And we don't see a lot of that. We tend to hear about the CEOs and the powers that be and all of that, when it's really that energy that's keeping the engine moving are the ones that are quite literally on the ground level. So you may not have a business that I'm talking about today, but I actually believe that our home is our business, our personal lives are our business. So there are definitely things here that will apply to you, and also why you may want to reach out and hire an intuitive. So one of the reasons that someone hires me is for hiring. And I'm upfront to say I am not an HR professional. I know enough about the laws, but not a specialty. That's why you have an HR contracted or an employee on staff. But hiring wise, I just had a consultation last night about this. Two fantastic they are out there. Keep your hopes up. Candidates showed up for a position, and after interviewing, the person who was in charge of hiring them was in a bit of a quandary. And what a beautiful quandary to have, right? That you have two people who, in their own strengths, would do a beautiful job for this company. And that's what I ended up telling him. You are not going to go wrong with either one. It's just, what one would you like to see in there, given the culture that's happening in the company right now? There's a certain personality that would best serve, but they're both going to do a great job. And that allows him to go into second interviews to ask questions that are a little bit more in depth, because I saw some concerns, certainly not red flags. This is an amazing situation, but I did have some concerns about a couple of them, personality, energy. And that's one of my specialties, is tapping into someone else's whole personality, not just the one that shows up at the interview, because we can all behave for an hour, right? And it's a lot of money to hire someone, train them, and find out that they are a you-know-what show. So when someone is hiring me, I know the culture of the company. I understand where they are in their growth process, but also the dynamics that are in play for the other departments and how whomever they're hiring has to mesh with that and create the best collaborative experience. And oftentimes, when it's your company or your department, it's hard to remove your perceptions or your ego or where you've made a decision in the past that didn't go so great. So, for myself, I am not often in the interviews. I don't need to be. I just need to know a little bit about the person, first name, and then what position are we hiring for? And I can access those intangible qualities. It's not about the CV or the resume for me. That helps, but it's not about that. And it's something that is hard to quantify and sometimes difficult to measure the value of until you've experienced it, until you realize, oh, this really was easy. And sometimes I'm talking to the hiring manager about their own biases and their own issues and saying, we need to move that out of the way first. I understand you need to fill a position, but you are going to attract someone who comes up and who's going to butt up against you. And that's not going to get us where we need to be. So, through the traditional hiring process, you can definitely succeed, of course, but hiring someone who is able to look behind the curtain a little bit will give you that edge to assimilate the team that you require. And some of this comes from my own experience of having hired people because I really wanted to help them. And I saw their greatest potential and had to learn through running my own company of being able to say, okay, I hear you can do this. Can you show me proof of this? And then taking people on for a temporary basis or learning to just be a more clear communicator about where I am as a company, what my next steps are. If you don't have these skills, I wish you well. And then, maybe check back with me in a couple years. So the hiring process can be incredibly stressful. And right now it's difficult. And it can be helpful to have that team member that can see through the BS and just get you to a more cohesive environment. And then hand it off to you and say, go do this, get your things all buttoned up. And along those lines, I have been in contract with those to help with conflict resolution. So the departments that just aren't getting along, the owner of the business who isn't seeing where their own energy is affecting things, being able to feel where someone is coming from in a non-invasive way. Like when I'm working in a corporation, I don't have permission to see everything in these people's lives. That's not cool. But what I do have permission to do is to look at where are the patterns and where are the behaviors that are leading the whole to what can be destructive communication styles. Unless I have full permission from the staff in an individual basis, never in a group setting, but and to look at where this trauma may have been laid down and why they're acting it out at work, I don't look. And when you're hiring someone to do this for your company, because there's many people who offer this service, I would want you to ask them, what's your line of visualizing? What's your line of knowledge? Where's your ethical line? Because just because you can read energy does not mean you should be reading energy. And it takes permission from another being to be able to tap into that. So when I'm working with someone, say the CEO hasn't told anybody or HR department, whomever hired me, hasn't told everybody that I'm coming in to work with them, that's fine. Just like any other consultant, I can take the information I'm receiving and give guidance or advice from there. And from an intuitive perspective, I let the whomever I'm speaking with know that I'm going to keep this on the professional level, but also let you know where some personality quirks may be coming into this. And this just happens to be my specialty. So there may be others out there who are consulting more on a product base, more on a investment base. I do people. I'm really good at the product thing, but people are my thing. So you might hire someone for different reasons. And in conflict resolution, you want someone who genuinely likes people and wants it to be the best. Have been many cases where I've been called into a company and I do my assessment, and the person that they have identified as the problem maker is not the problem maker. And they're overlooking the one that's really stirring the pot. And after group sessions or something, and I'll go back and say, that's not your problem person. Your problem person was sitting over there looking all sweet and looking and sounding like they're collaborative, but they're really undermining everything that's going on. And once that's addressed, then the others likely relax and you can have the conversations about moving forward. In one instance, the owner saw it, and to his credit, he was like, "Oh, I have missed that for years." And it's like, "Okay, it's fine. You're running a business. There's lots of moving parts." And we had talked about me having a conversation with this person after they documented, they did all of that, of freeing up their future. And when you release someone from a position, you want to be kind about it. And you also want to help guide them to what is in their best interest. Because if someone's not doing a great job in your company, they're likely in the wrong position or they're in the wrong company. And they're trying to make it fit for whatever reasons. If you can help them to see what's in their best interest, or even help them to see what they would rather be doing, then sometimes you can alleviate the tension that's been there, because honestly, people just want to be seen, heard, loved, appreciated. And this is an extra step. I get that, but it will save you in the long run from someone suing, from there being unemployment filings, or from it just being a very toxic work environment if you have this little bit of knowledge. And in one case, I was heading into the office to free up this person's future, to let them know that their services will no longer be needed at this company, and got a call from the owner saying, "You don't have to come in." And I'm like, "Why are you going to handle it?" Which honestly, really, I was like, that's not happening. The person resigned that morning. So no unemployment claim, no payout other than he did decide to give vacation and all of that, which was very kind and not necessary, but he did it. And I appreciate that for her. But it resolved. And why? Because no one had ever called this person on their behavior to say, this is where the company's going. And sometimes in your communication with your departments and with the people, to say, we're going to level up here. We're going to bring ethics up. We're going to hear the stuff that's difficult. We're going to talk about a different process of communication. Sometimes people will let themselves out the back door. And that's ultimately the best, that you want them to leave if this isn't working for them. So this also leads into team building. Not a rah-rah, zis, boom, bah, let's go do an outward bound experience. Although I totally would do that if somebody wanted me to. I'm not lead it, but I could be there to support people to do it, and do the events myself, but I don't want to put that together. But the team building helps because often I'm fostering an energy of empathy. And if you hire someone to do team building, there better be empathy involved and not just get in there and get the job done. You're also bringing emotional intelligence in, because most of us did not get this information. People are really okay. They are. And the majority of the population are really nice people who just don't have skill sets or tools or an understanding of how their behavior or how their past has impacted where they are. So if you come in from a perspective of empathy or emotional intelligence, you will build trust. And if people feel like they can be heard and they can be seen, and it's not all about fluffing the upper management skirts or pants or muumuus or caftan or whatever they're wearing, like if they know that, if they know there's a safe place to go, conflict tends to solve itself. And people adult up, like they become happier because they feel heard, they feel seen, and it's not off. It's often not a lot of lifting heavy lifting that has to be done. So when you're building the team, you will also express empathy for the person who's maybe creating conflict in the company, and because they must be hurting from somewhere. Now, there's a certain level of population that, are total you-know-whats. And I'm going to call that out too, because I'm not a therapist. We don't have to heal all of that, but we do need to be able to see it and to be able to see when someone's taking advantage and they know they're taking advantage, or where the behaviors are absolutely conscious behaviors. When there's subconscious behaviors, empathy, and you work through that. Conscious behaviors, I'm still going to have empathy, but I'm going to bring a little bit more of Mama Vicki to this and a little bit more of CEO Vicki with, that is not how we behave as an adult. Because adulting can be fun if we heal the child self and the teenager self and the young adult self. It can be a lot of fun to be here. So that also leads to, you might hire an intuitive advisor for strategy development, like what steps to take next, industry trends, customer needs, opportunities that are coming up. And I'll readily admit, having my movie screen is helpful. One of the clients that I've been blessed to be part of their corporation went from a deficit to last year's 27 million, with 12, somewhere around 12 being the profit margin and reinvestment margin, and cushion, because he does well by his employees and he wants to make sure he's there throughout his retirement. Strategy planning is what we've been doing because he does a lot of bids, and I will tap into it and feel which one's in his best interest for the workforce he's in. He always makes the decisions. He has an amazing intuitive sense. Once we hook those wires up, he's just amazing. And I'm there more to confirm, affirm, or let him know where I see the red flags and what they're not talking about in this project that he needs to know. I don't have to know his whole industry. I have learned a lot over the years about it, but I don't have to know everything. My job is to understand how the energy is impacting, to be able to, yes, predict what's coming down the line, to give him the time to consider what his next move is. So strategy development, when you're intuitive, you come from a broader perspective. You come from a universally wide. You also come from a place of potential. And then it's up to your client and you to create the probability in that. So you have the intuitive, the north, right? And you have the solidness of being human. And then you look into creating the probability from the possibility that is you're receiving, because everything is energy and everything is thought forms. If you think of using your skills intuitively, you're you're essentially running around with a butterfly net and you're catching those thought forms. So in strategy development, that can also help with product development. I love working with inventors because I don't get all of the science. I appreciate it so much. And I love when intuition and energy is backed up by science. I do. I think that leads to a greater comfort level for some people in absorbing it, and that's fantastic. But I love working with inventors because I may not know what centrifugal force needs to happen here Or if it's a product development for a protein shake or something like that. I know my protein, I'm learning a lot about that right now, but I don't know the ratios and the nutrition and all of that. I depend on the people who have already done the work when I purchase a product to do that. But I love being able to say, nope, you're missing a doohickey under the thingamajig because it's not going to do the whoop-de-doop-de unless you put that thingamajig in. And then just seeing the brain trip around for them and then go, oh, that's what's happening. How did I get there? I just feel where the void is. Where's the void? I don't need to know what the parts are called. That's their job. I need to feel for the void, and I need to feel how to heal that void or fix that void. Okay. So that is one way you could also use your intuition if you're creating your own business or if you're developing a product. Step outside of it, go for a walk, and then come back fresh and say, okay, where do I feel a void here? And that could be in a marketing campaign. That could be in a business plan. It could be in your portfolio. Anywhere you can use that perspective of where am I feeling the emptiness relationship? Mm-hmm. Okay. So one of the other areas that is helpful in having an intuitive on staff or on contract, and I did a lot of this when I was an employee and didn't realize I was doing it. But the brilliant directors I had would ask for my advice, and I didn't even realize that I was giving intuitive advice because I hadn't tapped into that in myself, but they did. And I just think that's brilliant. I didn't know. And they were like, hey, let's go get this chick. She seems to have a vision about things. And I just really thought it was all common sense and easy. So, and that's often the case. Our brilliance is usually what we feel is easy and everybody else is doing. So why should I talk about it? And to that point, being able to use and hire and contract with an intuitive advisor is the decision-making process gets easier. Now, I can speak from my perspective because it is easier for me to see which course of action is in their best interest, but I also feel like it's part of my obligation and my responsibility with these gifts to help someone harness their decision-making skills. So while I may say, this is what I feel is in your best interest, I will also say, and let me tell you how I got there, okay? And how you could get there, because this is how you're wired. You may not have a movie screen, but you feel things, and we need to work on that too. So intuition is used to complement the data you have. It's used to complement a process that is being developed or already in place. And that's because it gives a broader perspective and it can make complex problems seem super easy. And I intend to do this, and I hope it comes across that way. I will honor the person who has to make the decision and say, I realize this, I'm making it sound really easy. I'm making this sound like just do this, this, and this. I know it's not that easy, but that's how the information comes to me. And then we can formulate a plan from there. So we are a combination of our brain and our soul and our eternal mind. We are not meant to just use one. So if someone's like, I live my life completely by intuition, that concerns me because you do participate in the world of other humans. You have responsibilities to be grounded in your use of your intuition. And it can also create some big emotional issues if you're not grounded. So the decision-making process may be one where we're implementing a plan and it's a couple years out. So we have time, right? We can talk about this. We can toss different ideas. We can get more data. For those that are on retainer with me, it's often a case of, Vicki, I have to decide on hiring this person, or do I take this bid? Am I open on Tuesdays from 3 to 7? You know, things like that, where it's a more imminent need Do I fire this person? And it's okay, because I really believe that when we are releasing someone, if we're doing it without malice or judgment or like retribution, we are helping them. So the decision making can be both a long term contemplative, okay, hang on, that's where you were before, and you were going to decide to run with this product. Why are we over here with 4 other projects? And that's where, if you're hiring an intuitive advisor, having someone who's done some business coaching or life coaching would be helpful, because that practicality when you're running a business is needed. And it can help you to, I think, feel more secure. And in that, you get to develop the leadership of the company. And I work with a lot of executives. I work with a lot of business owners for this reason. I want to work with both. I want to bring the brilliance out in someone that they don't even know is there, right? They might have the position of leadership or doctor, dean, veterinarian, psychologist, engineer. They may have all of that, self-made business person. They may have all of that, but their leadership skills, especially in the area of emotional intelligence, I find has often needed a lot of support. So whether we call them type A or not, let's not label people, but we may say those that are driven maybe never pause to consider the emotion of a situation. This is actually why I love working with engineers, because their brain, by natural wiring, like systems and process and things lined up and equal. And that to me is refreshing, because they are already tapping into their natural brilliance. And I get to introduce them to more of a superpower of their emotions and their ability to translate and read energy. So using an intuitive in business, an advisor, a consultant, just know that everybody is intuitive. There's just some that, like myself, that have it within their service offerings. So you may want to look within your own company and see if you've got a Vicki in there somewhere that you can go, hey, come here. Can I get your input on this? Just be upfront with it. Like, I know and I appreciate my directors, but I also, in retrospect and in my own process, would have loved hearing that I'm asking you this because you seem to have a different perspective. It didn't have to be nailed. Maybe they didn't know it. It would have been nice to have that reflected to me. And one of my directors did do that years later when she came to see me at an event. And that did some healing that I didn't even realize I needed. So when you look about your company, look for that person that's got ideas that are quote unquote outside the box. Look for that person, because you may as well work with what you've got. And then if you'd like an objective perspective, go ahead and hire someone. So the last place that I'll go, well, 2 more. One can be the marketing and branding. Although this needs to also come from your own energy. I see a lot of people who hire out marketing and branding, and great. There are people with amazing skills in this, but don't hand over your marketing. It must be a reflection of you. So you have to listen to who you are. But I have been known to hand a one-liner out or a tagline, or, all the things I find difficult in my own company is relatively easy for me for other companies. It is not my specialty. I do not offer that as a, hey, you want to hire me for this? But there are some brilliant people out there who are working in this capacity, and I would encourage you doing some research. And the last place I'll talk about is customer service. It can be an asset of the highest degree to help you understand your customers' needs, their desires, what they want, and then bring that into the strategy plan. right? To tap into the customers that are already there, or to help you decide how can I best serve them? Because if you're in business, you ought to be of service. You're providing a service. An artistry, a musician is providing a service, and you just want to be clear about that. So it can help you to provide a more personalized and then effective customer service. And that could be the people who are working in customer service and that team building area, get them the support they need. But mostly it can be in helping to ascertain what is it that your clients at this stage require, or what's your client avatar? What is the message and what is the relationship that you want to have in your customer service? And that, to me, has to be a priority in any business. And if you are considering having a business, you already have a business, you are thinking about expanding your business, start there. It's the reason I ended with it. I want it to be the freshest on your brain. But you can also tap into your own intuitive abilities with all these areas and spark a little bit of creativity and bring a little bit of infusion of energy into your business so that you can generate new ideas, be it products, services, processes, innovate a little bit. Okay. So thank you for joining me. I wish you the best in your, if you need help, VickiBaird.com or Vicki@VickiBaird.com, pretty easy email. Any of the coaching platforms, well, they end up being that. Any of the social media platforms at Vicki Baird Coaching. And I look forward to hearing about your successes and how you're tapping into your own intuition in order to run your business. And I'm here if I can help. Thank you very much, and I will see you in the next episode. Thank you for listening to this episode of Intuition, Your Success Compass. I appreciate you being here. If you would like more information about developing your intuitive skills, removing those blocks, and creating the life that feels the most successful to you, then head on over to VickiBaird.com. That's VickiBaird.com. And check out the courses, the groups, and the Spaces app that will allow you to be part of our community and know about upcoming events and specials. Thank you so much, and I'll see you in the next episode.